Voting locations are open to every registered voter in the county, so no matter which early voting location you visit, the new machine will have your specific ballot. If you're interested in voting by mail, your application must be received by our office no later than a week before the election. Mail-in ballots can be cast by mail, deposited into a drop box, or be delivered in person to the Board of Elections no later than 8 p.m. on Election Day. Voting has never been more convenient. For more information, visit bergencountyclerk.gov or contact one of your Bergen County Elections offices.
Recording in progress.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the regularly scheduled public meeting of
Oh, nice, September 9th, that's good.
October 7, 2024 of the Township of Washington Council. Adequate notice of the meeting was given in accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act by the Township Clerk to at least 2 newspapers in January, and this meeting has been posted on the Township Bulletin Board, the Electronic Message Board, WCTV, and on the Township website. Please notify the municipal clerk for any disability requirements necessary for attendance at mayor and council meetings. The fire exits are located through the double doors to your right and through the door on your left. Please silence all cell phones. If you're unable to attend a council meeting in person and would like a topic to be addressed at a council meeting, please send an email to the Township of Washington. Contact all council members at once, twp@washington.us. Could everyone please stand for a salute to the flag? Pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
Councilman Casio?
Here.
Councilman Sears?
Here.
Councilman Ullman?
Here.
Councilwoman Velez?
Here.
Council President DeSena?
Here. Let the record reflect also in attendance Mayor Calamari, Township Administrator DeCarlo, Township Attorney Bailey, and Township Clerk Mrs. Bukowski. And also Mr. Vinci is here, and Mr. Corcoran is on Zoom. Okay, presentation 2023 audit review presented by Mr. Vinci of Lurch, Vinci and Bliss. Good evening, Mr. Vinci.
Good evening, everybody. Is this on? Okay.
Yes.
Just as a matter of highlights for the 23 audit, financially, the township continues to be in excellent financial condition. You ended the year with just about $3.1 million of surplus, which is about $250,000 less than the prior year. But I think when you look at the size of your budget, roughly $16 million, that level of surplus is still very healthy. In addition to that, and I know the township is undertaking a revaluation of real property, just wanted to remind the governing body that you do have a reserve for tax appeals of $350,000. And that reserve can be used in the future should you have to refund any tax appeals that do go against the township. So just wanted to bring that to the governing body's attention.
Thank you.
There are 2 recommendations that are included in the audit. Both really touch on procurement, purchasing. First one really deals with state contracts. A lot of government entities enter into agreements with co-ops, state contracts, and I think what's very important at the time that those contracts are entered into, that the documents are retained in the finance department, as well as that the governing body has provided a resolution to award that contract. The second has to do with the issuance of purchase orders. In certain situations, we realized that the work was already rendered prior to the purchase order being issued. Obviously, you would like to have the purchase orders issued first. You do not want the department heads bypassing the internal controls within the finance department where they are spending the money without having the monies encumbered in your budget. Both were really not significant, but I think both do still require some improvement, within the township record keeping. Any questions from the governing body?
Go ahead, Mr. Sullivan.
The contracts awarded through state contracts, does that also include cooperative purchasing?
Yes, well, they're different, but the basis is the same, so that if the township enters into an agreement with a contract that was awarded by a co-op, the township council would also have to ratify that too.
And do we have to approve the contract, or do we have to resolve to participate in the co-op?
I think initially you are required to pass a resolution that you will be utilizing the co-op's agreements. And then at the time that you utilize a vendor that the co-op has awarded, you then, as a township council, need to approve that individual contract with that vendor.
And just one follow-up on that. So, and the contract or the co-op escapes me at the moment, but I believe the council at one point resolved to participate in year one, let's say, and we've used that co-op multiple times, multiple years. In your opinion, does that need to be resolved every year, or is once enough for forever?
My opinion is that it should be done annually.
So resolve that annually that
Yes.
we're participating?
Yes.
Okay.
And I think a lot of the government entities, whether it's municipalities or school districts, are utilizing co-ops because the co-op with their bulk purchasing can get better financial deals for all the participants. I think what's very important, as those co-ops increase, the documents that they have approved with that vendor need to be provided to the local government, so that when you do receive the invoice from that vendor, the terms of the contract mirror what you are paying. And that's very important. And we've seen some other government entities where there have been documents that are just not on file, and yet those invoices are being paid. I'm not saying that's done here. I just think generically that's important.
Mr. DeSena, do you mind if I ask?
Yes.
Mr. Vinci, what does that look like? Like, I understand when you say that it should be.
So if a co-op awarded a contract and part of the agreement was that the employees of that vendor would be charged at different hourly rates, then the invoice that you receive from that vendor should be submitted to you detailing those same hourly rates.
No, I mean, when you said it should be, I think it was not reaffirmed, but you said it should be done yearly.
Oh,
What
it's
is that?
the interest of the township council to participate in, say, the Middlesex jointure. It's an annual resolution that you want to participate with that
So
co-op.
something at like the reorganization meeting.
You could do it at the reorg as long as you know then what co-ops you are interested in. and
That is a
utilizing.
question I think you've asked of us before, something similar. And I think we had said, we had gotten information that once you're in it,
Yeah, there's certain
You're in
ones,
it.
certain co-ops that say they're not required.
But you're
they don't
saying best
require us to
management
do it.
practices to do it every year.
I think a resolution has a limited lifespan too. You have different governing bodies. I don't think it hurts to memorialize that.
so
So Mr. Vinci, is that same, if we enter, let's just say we're buying a new Tahoe for the police department, right, under the state co-op. And the first resolution should be is to enter into the state co-op to buy that Tahoe. But then when they pick blank Chevrolet as the vendor, we should amend that resolution to include blank Chevrolet as the vendor.
Or you just have a separate resolution utilizing that vendor. That's correct.
that something we need to?
Yeah, well, it was.
Yeah, no, I'm just saying that.
The
just
affirmative
to-
yearly one, yeah.
Correct.
And do you mind if I just expand on
No,
it?
go ahead. Hold on.
No problem.
Mr. Castro, if I could just hold it. I cut him off now.
Oh, okay. Apologies.
Go ahead, Mr. Castro.
It was a general question. Can we just make it a blanket one, any state contractor? Or does it have to be vendor?
No, it has to be
Vendor specific?
Vendor specific.
Okay.
What we were omitting was when it was a state contract, or what we were failing to do was when it was a state contract or a co-op over the bid threshold of 44,000 was bringing the resolution before the council. So if I'm correct, it was only applying to expenses over the bid threshold. So when we went out to bid, you guys knew about it because you gave us permission to do it and then the awarding of bid. Why I didn't think it was necessary is because most of the time it's approved under the capital ordinance. So I was looking at it as redundancy, but when we made the recommendation, we immediately instituted it. And that's why you guys have seen, and ladies have seen, resolutions come before you because it was state contract. So,
I think with state contracts, you have to keep in mind that there's a expiration of that contract. And if you are utilizing a vendor and that contract has expired, you will not be able to retrieve that contract from the state purchasing website. That contract is purged off their system. So the document at the time that you are approving the purchase order, that state contract should be attached because otherwise it's difficult to retrieve later.
Oh, okay.
we do.
Okay.
Uh,
And any other questions?
Yeah.
Go ahead, Mr. Wong.
Just, there's a asterisk and a footnote that the second, the purchase orders being encumbered was a prior period. And is it a timing issue? Because the prior year audit is, only presented, I guess in August. But we indicated in our corrective action plan that this was going to be addressed. So was it addressed at some point during the year and you're calling out ones that prior to that, or is it something that was not addressed?
May have been addressed. I don't think it's still addressed fully. I don't think it had to do with commitments that were rendered prior to the release of last year's audit.
Okay.
Go ahead.
And it's a common issue that we do have with government entities because some departments tend to manage their own budget and they tend to go one step further and actually have the work done in good faith. But unfortunately, you still like to follow the purchasing procedures of the township.
Thank you. I just wanted to expand on it. It is an extremely hard one to fully overcome with, zero, not violations, but you know what I mean? So in October of 22, when I've been here for 2 months, there was this more significant problem and we made a lot of changes, including changing the purchasing policy. And then it's training and breaking old habits. And I was very kind of disheartened to see that it wasn't necessarily worse, but you take 25 random purchase orders. And in 22's audit, it was 9 out of 25. And this time, I honestly tell you, it was 12 out of 25. So either he's really picking the right ones, that you have a knack for it. But I know for a fact that there's absolute improvement in this because every one of these passes through my hands. And then part of our standard policy is if the invoice is dated prior to the PO, there has to be an email, a memo style explaining why. Sometimes it's just a mistake on the part of the employee. I reviewed the 12 and a few of them came from last year's summer camp program. And as you know, there's a lot of hands in it. Some people that go and make a purchase and it's under, it's above the $100 petty cash. So we have to do a PO. Other times, and I've seen it, we ask for a quote from a company and they put the order through with a quote. So now we're getting the invoice prior to the date of the PO. And it really is simply that, the invoice date and the PO date. So I do tell you honestly that there has been significant improvement. I don't know that there'll ever be zero circumstances. I mean, stuff just happens. And I know that probably sounds like a crappy excuse. But everybody knows the policy. We do have a policy. There has been improvement. Like I said, it's disheartening. I thought it was going to be a lot better. So it's something we continuously work on.
Mr. Vinci, I have a question regarding escrow accounts. Is there a best management practice? We seem to have an issue with, bills coming in late from our either professionals or escrow accounts not being funded correctly. And then, what the law is, the town is now eligible to pay their professionals. And, the homeowners are basically off the hook unless we file suit against them, which towns don't do because it's just too expensive. Is there any kind of best management practices we can introduce? Because I know, like in my prior life, December 31st, if I didn't have all my bills in, it was zero. We're getting zero. And is there any other municipalities where you have experience with that, where you've instituted some kind of system to prevent that from happening?
That situation has occurred in other municipalities.
I'm not saying we're not, yeah.
No, what some towns are actually trying to do now is basically have a meeting with the joint bodies, the boards, to make sure that it could be the fact that the level of escrow that you're asking
It's too little.
is too low. And that the dollar amount that has to be paid up front needs to be increased based on the spending that the township has realized it incurred by their professionals. We definitely have more towns that are running into that situation because, as you said, they will not go back and ask, for additional monies. But unfortunately,
The professionals are still due their amount, they did the work.
professionals are not always handing in their invoices in a timely manner, which complicates the accounting side for the finance department.
Okay.
Mr. Senate, I'm sorry, Mr. Holman. Do you mind if I comment on that too? So that was another problem we recognized. We actually, it was one of our very first meetings with Miss Bailey back in July or August when she first came. We met with the two ladies involved with escrow. We really only have one contractor that we have that problem with. That has a very outstanding AR, not in balance, but with dates. So we are working on it, and we're consulting with Ms. Bailey on what's the lawful approach as far as how long the township has to. I don't know
Mr. Corcoran's got to be the bad guy and say, you don't give me bills by December 31st, you don't get paid.
Yeah, there's really one, and I met with that contractor the other day too. It's not the first meeting. So we have recognized it, and we're working on it to see how we can get it rectified.
Mr. Vinci remembers my CFO in Waldwick, and
Oh, yes.
You know who it is. And
Yes.
she was great at that.
Are there two issues? Is it one, we're not demanding or collecting enough escrow upfront from the resident, and two, the reconciliation or the billing process?
I believe it's typically two issues where the professional may not be providing their bill timely. And then when they do,
It's too late.
and the escrow balance is insufficient to pay the bill. And that's where we have suggested that to try to meet with the boards and have them increase the level of escrow, because whatever's not, obviously the regulations require detailed documentation of the work done by the professional, and whatever balance is remaining will be, refunded back to the applicant.
Sure. And is that something we can lien the resident on, or we have to negotiate? I mean, can we put a tax lien on them?
I would have to look and see if that's one of the enumerated automatic taxes.
It's a slippery slope.
Yeah.
No, if you're not paying, I mean.
Thank you, Mr. Vinci.
You're welcome.
Any other questions for Mr. Vinci?
Yeah.
Mr. Sears? Oh, you're going to, yeah.
I just have
Go
one
ahead,
more.
Mr. Holmes.
So, Mr. Vinci, it wasn't raised in the audit as an exception or as an issue. When we were doing the budget earlier this year, one of the things that I tend to do is to go back through the ledgers to see where the expenses came from in the prior year to project the next year. I mean, some people think it's a little too detailed. So my question is, when we receive a reimbursement for a insurance claim, for instance, a police cruiser is damaged and JIF pays us, is that typically taken into income, or is it netted against a expense line? And my feeling is that it should be taken into income outside of the expense, because we're netting down the true expenses, and it sort of makes it difficult to judge what our run rates are. And, there were a number of examples of that. And I would just like your opinion on, in general, what a best practice is without understanding the specifics.
So if you use the car insurance example, and a cruiser was ended up in an accident where the JIF provided you with a $10,000 insurance settlement toward the purchase of a new car, then typically that $10,000 will not go in income. The $10,000 will be a credit to the budget line item where the cruiser was purchased from.
Okay.
So, and that's very typical of most types of insurance settlements, because as a government entity, you then have to pay for whether it's a repair to a building, whether it's an acquisition of a truck or a police vehicle. So typically those insurance monies are netted against the expense. That is typically the common practice.
All right.
If the claim is, say, 2 years ago and the expense occurred in the prior years, then in your example, it would go to income.
Okay. So,
I think more has to do with the timing of when you anticipate spending those proceeds.
So if it's it happens in January and it comes back in March, it would go against paying the repair bill or the new purchase.
Correct.
But if it happens in January 2022, we get the check in 2024, then it should go to income.
Correct.
Okay. Any other questions for Mr. Vinci? Thank you, Mr. Vinci.
Okay, thank you.
Thank
Have
you.
a good night. Thank you.
Moving on, payment of bills, resolution number 24-337, authorize payment of bills September 20th, 2024 to October 3rd, 2024. Do I have a motion?
So move.
Second.
Any questions or comments?
I had sent some questions to Mr. DiCarlo. I don't know if he had an opportunity to review them. And
Me and you discussed them this morning. I didn't know, did you want to go over them again? I'm more than happy to.
So, no, there's no need to go over them again. I guess
Would you be able to provide those to Sue so she can send it to us to the council?
It was all done verbally. I mean, it would
Oh, okay.
be
Then I
easier
thought- I
for me
didn't know
to
if you-
just say it again now than to have to provide it in writing and take away time from something else. But I have,
That's fine.
I'm sorry, Mr. Ullman, I thought we had spoken about each and every one of them, but I have no problems discussing them openly.
okay.
The first was a question is while the issue predates me, the township has had issues with the timely payment of invoices from Azalina Fury Engineering 2018 based on open POs, invoices, and known project assignments. Are we current with AF Engineering? Accompanying this email was a very beneficial memorandum that Mr. Ullman provided me that was written and provided to council by my predecessor, Matt Cavallo. And it was just regarding this issue. So since I've come here in 22, we've been aware and been trying to rectify outstanding invoices with Azalina and Fury Engineering. Most recently, again, I told you we spoke with Ms. Bailey and our escrow team here from finance. And we were trying to determine lawfully how far back can we charge people escrow in the township. With Mr. Azzolina being a very incredible amount of institutional knowledge, always being there for the township, I thought it only correct to pay those bills, with the oldest one being from 2011. So the memorandum that was written by Mr. Cavallo kind of highlighted this problem, and I think they probably only missed one. That was pre-2018. Since then, there was, I think, one from 2019, a few in 2020, and a few in 2023, all of which I was unaware of until we received the AR. So this kind of goes back to the problem of a purchase order, and I kind of what I alerted council to last week, and us rectifying the problem. So in order to rectify the problem, I've met with those professionals and restated to them that no professional service is to be rendered without my approval and without me providing a purchase order. So when those services were rendered without me doing it, one, I then get a recommendation on the audit, and two, I don't know there's an outstanding invoice. So for sake of discussion, let's say there was 7 or 8 outstanding invoices. They all totaled under $2,000. I had them supported by the invoices. I fully believe that, the work was rendered and Mr. Azzolina was deserving of the payment. So that answers the question as to why it was on the bill list. So the 23 bills, we were able to use reserve money from 23 accounts to pay. Anything older than 23, we had to use 24 money to fund it because we're out of that surplus year. So that kind of answers the PO.
Can I-
get?
May I just interrupt?
Yes.
So I think the key here, though, is that the memo that I forwarded to you, some people may not be familiar with it, they may not have been on council at the time, was probably 10 years of billings and, 150 or 200 lines. And I think that, further to our discussion, the thing to call out now is that we're in a situation where it's a handful of bills that is, nominal amount of money in the scheme of things. So the process works, and which is what you explained. I mean, my concern was that we had another list of 200 bills that were an issue, and you, through a process that has been implemented, have, identified and are clearing these as quickly as possible. So to me, that's the story. That, that was really the question is, do we have something else building up? And we don't. So I think that's a good thing.
Yeah, thank you. And as far as I know, we have no outstanding township owed bills to like any of our professionals. So we took them up. There's escrow bills, and it's exactly that. And again, the Joy and Grace, they work very hard to get the residents to replenish the escrow. And that's the only reason why the bills would go for any length of time not being paid. And we dealt with, we conferred with Mr. Pollard at the appropriate time, whether it was a year ago, a year and a half ago, as to what can we do. And really the only thing we can hold back on is their CO, but if they don't care, unless it's a situation where they shouldn't be inhabiting the house or something. But a lot of times they're minor stuff like a pool or an addition. And we've even gone so far as, hey, what if they come back to us and ask for a new project? And his answer was, don't hold up. The right thing to do is to not hold up the new project because they haven't satisfied the old project. So again, I'm glad we're identifying, and I'm happy to tell you we're identifying these things before they are recognizable problems to the council. But yes, we should not have any. The only thing we have are a few leftover open purchase orders from 23, but that's because maybe something was on back order and we haven't received something, maybe a piece of fire department equipment. But we're getting, close to zero, as we got to have them done by the end of December as well. The second question was based on prior discussions. Mr. Ullman was under the impression we had a shared service for motor vehicle maintenance. Why are we sending cars out for a 10-minute oil change? Cost scheduling. Again, it just brings up the conversation that we don't have a fully operational DPW building. I do know from speaking with DPW members, once they're up and running, they're more than happy to start doing those minor service calls on the vehicles, whether it's, rotating the tires or, a 10-minute oil change. But for right now, since we don't have the proper location to conduct those service, that's why we're going out for those expenses.
And
Go ahead.
and so again, further to our discussion, the reason I asked this again was we have a DPW building that we're considering. I'd asked about a pit. Maybe that's not the solution. Maybe it's a lift. I think Mr. DiCarlo mentioned the possibility of a lift. And if we're going to do that, that's an expense that we need to ensure is captured in any proposal that we receive. And, so it's not, we capture the complete cost of the building, not only the envelope, but also kitting out of it.
The third question was, can I explain the relationship between the reserve for snow plowing and the purchase of concrete block? As you know, we have, I don't want to call it a makeshift salt dome. I'll probably get myself in trouble with New Jersey DEP, but it's sufficient for the amount of time that we maintain salt storage at DPW. So in preparation for the season, we have to make that as solid as we can to prevent stormwater runoff that has contamination from the salt. So in doing so, we had to create a concrete bed on the inside of where the where the storage unit is that's pervious, doesn't allow it. We had to put a concrete lip in the front to prevent water from coming out. And we had to get some of what we call those big concrete blocks, better known as Jersey barriers, to fortify the structure so the weight of the salt pressing against them isn't breaking the integrity of the structure itself. And it's more than appropriate to use the snow trust for expenses related to those associated expenses. The next question is, shouldn't this be fixed at the construction company's expense? Mr. Ullman, I think it was a thermostat replacement at the emergency services building, but the 2-year maintenance, even though it's expired 9/23, it did not cover the expense of this. This is more of like a wear and tear expense. I don't really know why the thermostat, but I know it wouldn't be covered by contacting the construction company to have it, fixed.
Okay.
And the last one is just Mr. Ullman just requested basically a vehicle inventory for cars, trucks, and motor vehicle equipment, which I have no problem providing, and I'll provide it to all the council members so you can see our fleet. And that concludes the questions from Mr. Ullman.
Thank you. Any other questions? Roll call?
Councilman Casio.
Yes.
Councilman Sears.
Yes.
Councilman Ullman.
Yes.
Councilwoman Velez.
Yes.
Council President DeSena.
Yes. PSA for October 7th, 2024. PSE&G is replacing existing electrical and gas meters with new smart meters throughout town as required by the BPU. Please be sure to respond to any letters requesting meter replacement. If you do not reply, your service is in jeopardy of being shut off. Please visit our website for more information. Important election updates. September 21st is, passed already. October 15th is voter registration deadline. The clerk's office will be open until 9 p.m. October 26th through November 3rd is early voting period. October 29th is the deadline to apply for mail-in ballot by mail. November 4th, 3 p.m., deadline for in-person mail-in ballot applications. November 5th is the general election. Polls are open from 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. There is a video posted on WCTV, which is running on 3 ways to vote. So if you'd like to, I know WCTV has times posted, right, Sue? They're
They've been
running it
doing it
every
on the top of the hour.
top of the hour.
And in the beginning and the after of a
Correct.
program, a scheduled program.
Town Hall elevator. The modernization of the Town Hall elevator is currently underway and hopefully will be completed by November 4th. Township employees are prepared to assist residents that are unable to utilize stairs. We encourage the use of the exterior drop box for paying taxes as well as other correspondence. The Township of Washington has added the Recycle Coach app. to our website on the Department of Public Works page. Recycle Coach is an address-based app that educates residents on how to recycle materials appropriately for their area. By downloading the Recycle Coach app, you will be able to obtain your curbside collection schedule, sign up for alerts, and quickly learn how to properly dispose of different waste materials. The Township of Washington's first annual Washington Wicked 5K Kids Fun Run will be held on Sunday, October 20th at 9 a.m. Fun starts at Gardner Field. Please visit our website for registration information. The next paper shredding only event will take place on Saturday, October 19, 2024, from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. at the Bethany Community Center parking lot, 605 Pascack Road. Bring your papers, documents to be shredded. Paper must be dry. Any damp or wet papers will be rejected. No plastic bags, books, binder clips, or 3-ring binders. The township is seeking members for the Advisory Board of Health. If you are interested, please contact the mayor via email at mayor@twpofwashington.us. The Township Council of the Township of Washington is hereby soliciting resumes and/or letters of interest qualifications from township residents to be appointed to the Zoning Board of Adjustment, alternate position, for the vacancy terms as follows: 1 through 12/31/2025. Please visit the clerk section of the website under the forms page for application. The Bergen County Annual Job Fair will be held on Friday, October 18th from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. at Bergen Community College. Please visit our website for more information. The Kiwanis Club is a global organization of volunteers dedicated to improving the world one child and one community at a time. The Kiwanis Club of the Pascack Valley, formed for the Township and Westwood, meet on the second Wednesday of each month at 6:30 p.m. at the Westwood Community Center. If anyone would like more information, please contact Paul Ralph Cardulli at 516-581-8319 or pascackvalleykiwanis@gmail.com. Our next council meeting will be held on Monday, October 21st. Thank you.
Mr. DeSena, can I ask one question?
Sure.
How does the town shred their internal documents? So I guess my question is, I've accumulated quite a bit of council